you a home grower looking for a little bit of help? Are you ready to learn as much as you can about your favorite hobby? The Homegrown Helpers brings you informative interviews from experienced growers that have taken the next steps in their journey and decided to help you grow top quality cannabis all in your home. Now welcome in our host, Rob Smith, along with this week's Homegrown Helper. Good morning, good afternoon, and good day, all you home growers out there. I'm so glad to be joining you for another week. This is my way to connect with all of you during this quarantine time. And, I hope you're all staying safe and doing your part to lessen the impact that the sickness has on the healthcare system, on the world. I know that we'll all get back to normal and that life will eventually get back to where we want it to be. I just hope that we get back to being able to go see a baseball game or a concert or, hell, hug my mom, for crying out loud. So do your part, stay home, help us all out. Today, we're three in a row of international interviews here. This is a twofer. It's a little different for me. This was the first time I had to go back and forth between two guests. So there's a little adjustment period, and one of them is in Spain, and the other one is in Southern California. So there's a little connection issues sometimes with our Zoom call, but I think we bring it all back and do a pretty good job at making it through those. So, Mr. Macblunts and Joaquin joined me. And, they specifically wanted to get on and talk about breeding and some beginner breeding tips. And I think you'll really, really enjoy that conversation. But what I loved most about this is how the two of these guys met, through Instagram, and just really about a passion for growing and teaching and helping each other out. And Mr. Macblunts, reached out to Joaquin on Instagram, and they really just jived. And, Joaquin was teaching Mr. Macblunts about Korean natural farming and organic gardening practices. And, they wanted to get on this call together. And I was like, sure, let's do it, guys. Like, I'm all for it. So, we cover the beginner breeding tips. We cover some Korean natural farming, expectations with living soil. And then we wrap things up with the good old fashioned how to get the most out of your plants chat. How to increase those yields, which we know that we are all about here in the U.S. with our limited plant counts. And I hope you're all abiding by those so that we can keep the law on the good side, on our good side, by playing nice. And then they'll realize that 6 plants isn't that big of a deal. And then they'll give us 12 and then 24 and then, lift that limit eventually. That's my goal. So today we are brought to you by our friends Sohum Living Soils. You can find them at sohumsoils.com and use code GROWCAST10 to save 10% off all of your bags of the best water-only soil out there. We're also partnering with, Michigan-made Mix. They're another water-only soil. And our friend Rhizo Rich, you can find him at RhizoRich_ICC on Instagram, I think it is. But he's all over our feeds. If you find him, he is going to be doing a side-by-side test of this water-only stuff and only adding water to really see how these brands stack up against each other. I personally love Sohum Soils and really have used them before, water-only, never added anything. I have some specific tips, like make sure you pot up in between veg and flower or right before flower, and also always bottom feed. That's another big one. So sohumsoils.com, use code GROWCAST10, save yourself 10% off. Experience natural farming, experience organic inputs, and experience the ease of only having to add water that you don't even need to pH. I think that's it for me. If you like what you hear, make sure you rate, review, subscribe, share. Check out all of our giveaways on our Instagram bio link or at linktree/Growcast. Hey guys, so I needed to hop in here before we let you get to the episode and let you know about a giveaway that our guest wanted to do. Mr. Macblunts is going to be giving away 3 packs of seeds from his personal prized collection. And Joaquin is going to be giving away a 32-ounce bottle of his Bug Be Gone from Pura Vida Natural Veganics. So all you have to do is head over to the Instagrams, find the Homegrown Helpers account. Make sure you're following us. Find the announcement of this episode. It will be very recently once you hear this. And all you have to do is say in. Now, in order to win, you need to be following our 4 accounts. That is Mr. Macblunts, and he'll be linked in the announcement there. Pura Vida _natural _veganics, which is Joaquin's account, Growcast, and the Homegrown Helpers. Now, there will be 4 winners, 1 for each pack of the seeds and 1 for the 32-ounce bottle of Bug Be Gone. The other thing that I needed to tell you guys about is that our swag store is doing a 15% off sale for all of the swag, all the Growcast, all the Homegrown Helpers, all the Wolfman stuff that we have in there. 15% off today. Head on over to, not today, sorry, the 2nd and the 3rd, all weekend long. Head on over to thehomegrownhelpers.com/swag, growcastpodcast.com/swag. Our link tree, which is in the bio on the Instagram when you go in there and check things out and enter the contest. And 15% off. You don't have to do much of anything. All you have to do is check out. So let's get you into this great episode. Don't forget to enter the giveaway by following us and just commenting on it that you're in. That's how people are going to be entered. Happy growing, everybody. And welcome to another amazing episode of the Homegrown Helpers, guys. I am absolutely loving this new format, and I hope you guys are too. Because today I'm connecting with people literally on opposite sides of the earth. I got somebody from Spain and somebody living in Cali right now, so we're getting somebody in the morning and somebody in the evening. So welcome to the show, guys. I'll just let you guys kind of take it off. Mr. Macblunts and Joaquin. Why don't you start us off, Macblunts? Tell us a little bit about yourself, where you're at, and your history with cannabis and how you started growing it.
All right. Well, first off, I want to say I really appreciate you for having me on the show. It's definitely my pleasure. So I'm from Houston, Texas. I've been growing for about 5 years now. I moved to Spain for work, and I've been growing ever since.
So what brought you to Spain? Was it the cannabis industry, or was it another job?
It was another job. I work in kind of like with Doctors Without Borders, but for dentistry.
Oh, okay. Cool. So how long have you been in Spain, and what's the legal status of cannabis out there?
So I've been in Spain for 2 years now. And the way it works with Spain is a little confusing to me still, because it's like it's illegal, but it's tolerated. So it's kind of like don't ask, don't tell, don't blunt. There are a couple grow shops here, and there's a couple dispensaries that my wife and I drive to and pick up bud every now and then. But for the most part, I don't bother them. They don't bother me,
Right on. Do you ever make it to Spanibus out there?
I will be in Spanibus this year, passing out gear. So guys, look for me out there.
Right on. How about you, Joaquin? Tell us a little bit about your story.
Right on. So I was born and raised here in California. It's a little bit a laid-back area for cannabis. I grew up in a high school. It wasn't legal. That's just a new thing that they did with legislation, legalization here in the States. So, I have a legal right to grow 6 plants, and I have 5 in my greenhouse right now, even though I have, maybe like 8 or 9 more teens and a bunch of clones and stuff too that don't count. But, it is what it is. So, I've been growing now for about 5 or 6 years, and cultivating naturally or natural farming for about 3 years now.
Now, what made you take that transition from? I assume you were using, synthetics or maybe organics before, but more towards the Korean natural farming aspect of growing.
I did start with the synthetics, and I moved to organics, and I really like the way that organics made my plants look. I noticed a certain type of vibrancy and life that I didn't notice before with synthetics. And I dwelled down the rabbit hole further and further and tried to find the more pure, and eventually found Korean natural farming and modern natural farming, Jadam, low cost agriculture and stuff like that. And it just really ran with it. And I love the results so far. It's been great in my garden.
Yes, same story for me, man. I grew up in this game with synthetics, and as soon as I met Joaquin, man, he introduced me to the Korean natural farming in Japan, and I've never seen my plants more happier, more vibrant, more robust than using natural farming, and it's so much cheaper, man. Like I totally love it.
Yeah, definitely cuts costs.
Yeah, totally, and it almost makes it easier. I mean, it's a little bit more work at times, or a little bit more work up front, but overall, the process of growing premium top shelf cannabis is actually simplified when
Exactly.
you go to the more natural way.
Yeah, most definitely. Yeah,
You
yeah.
know what? I even noticed my terpene profile has been more prevalent in the final product than when using synthetics. I won't name any names that I was using, but it's awesome. Like I think, and then it protects Mother Earth. You know, it gives Mother Earth a fighting chance versus using all the pollutants and stuff like that. That what goes into making these synthetic products and stuff like that.
Well, it definitely has an impact on Mother Earth. I'm not sure if that alone has, is going to give Mother Earth a fighting chance, but we want to do everything that we can to help Mother Earth along the way. That's for sure.
Definitely, definitely. It's definitely a step in the right direction.
Right. So, Macblunts, can you just give us a little bit of information about your current grow setup there in Spain? Like, do you have, a little tent down the basement?
Sure.
Is it 2 or 3 plants or?
So right now I have two tents. I have a veg tent and a flower tent. One is a 4x4, and I have a 315 Cotilux CMH lighting in there. Shout out to Cotilux. And then in the other room, I have a 2x4 tent with a Mars 300 LED light in there.
Okay. And, I know it's not legal, so, if you don't want to talk plant counts, I can totally respect that. But how many plants do you typically, have in flower or veg at one time?
Okay, so this is my first time actually trying to see a green method. So I have 16 plants in 1.5 and 2 gallons, and then I have maybe about another 16 solo cups inside of the 2 by
Cool.
from all different type of brands, different breeders. So
Right on. So you wanted to talk a little bit about tips for beginning breeders. You guys were just getting started, or at least you were, Macblunts, and you felt like you had a lot of advice to be able to share with people. So why don't you kick us off and let us know, what you want new breeders to know before they get started and make the same mistakes.
So I think the first and foremost thing is that I learned early in the game is work your line. You know, just because you create an F1 doesn't mean it's absolutely ready to release. You have to take your time and build on the traits that you're actually looking for and that you want to produce out to the community. Because at the end of the day, when you put your work out, that's your seal, that's your stamp, that's your name. So just like you wouldn't, build a car with 3 wheels and don't drive. You want to take your time with these plants. And you put the love into the plants, and they'll give it right back to you, and so will the community.
That's a good tip.
Joaquin, did you have something to add about new breeders getting started and how they can be successful?
Yeah, sure. I can throw a little bit in there. One thing, like Mr. McBlunt said, work your line, and also try and pay attention to detail, things like structure, smell, crystal production, things like that. Whatever you're breeding for. Also, a lot of people forget, to breed for something. If you're breeding for THC percentages, or if you're breeding for,
Right.
Terpene profile, then stick with that, and stick with that line until you're happy with it.
Have a plan. You definitely have to have a plan. Anyone can collect pollen and throw on the pistils and create seeds, but it takes dedication to create something that you can actually say you're proud of. That you took your time and you watched it develop into a beautiful plant.
Yeah, totally. What do you guys mean by working the line though? Like, is that flowering it out multiple times? Is it back crossing it? Is it, making an F2 and getting the F2s out there. Talk to us a little bit about what working the line means to each of you. How about you kick us off, Joaquin?
Working the line for me would probably be, like I said, just trying to achieve your end goal, but also to remember stability. You don't want something that you're going to be releasing to people that's going to be hermaphroditic or anything like that. That's going to be, negative traits like that. So, you're going to want to pay attention to detail on things like that. Also, different conditions, like is it mold resistant? What kind of pest is it resistant to? Different things like that.
So,
Yep, definitely.
Macblunts, why don't you give us your answer, and then maybe I don't have to ask my questions.
Well, he hit it definitely on the head with everything he said. You're breeding for almost perfection, shall I say? Nothing's perfect in the world, but you try to breed everything into the plant in which you were looking for. Like you said, if you're going for a particular smell, you pop 15, 20 beans and you pick that particular smell that you're looking for, and then you ride with that one. It just takes time. Like I said, you won't get it correct on the first try,
So my questions are like, how do you test a new strain for resiliency? Like, do you pop a bunch of those, F1 beans and stress test some, heat stress some? Like, do you have a separate room for, throwing some powdery mildew in there? Do you, kind of crank the humidity up and kind of insist that it gets some mold or do anything that you can to kind of stress it out? Like, or do you rely on your testers to do that type of stuff?
So a little bit of both, but I think primarily you want to test your gear as much as you can before you send it out for someone else to test. Because the test is can your line survive in any condition, in whether it be a novice grower or an expert grower. For instance, like here in Spain, we deal with humidity. So if I don't have the fans going, if I don't have exhaust, powdery mildew will build up on my walls, period. So I have to keep a perfect temperature to keep the PM down, right? So in my regimen, in my thing, I beat the hell out of my plant. I'll go in there, I'll shake them up, I'll cut the lights on when it's not supposed to be on. I'll leave the tin open. I'll throw them outside in the cold. All type of stressors that are trying to stress the plant to make them bring out the hermaphroditic trait, if possible. You just pretty much do everything that you would normally do to the plant. Starve it. Sometimes I'll go 2-3 weeks without feeding the plant, without giving it water, just to see how it reacts. Take notes, write it down, and do it all over again.
Joaquin, do you have anything else to add to that?
Yeah, sure. I mean, being able to stress them in your own environment is great. Also, sending them to different testers, like you were asking. Different people have different grow rooms, different environments. I give beans out a lot of the times to my friends, people in different areas, just so that they can try it out for me and see how it does. Because I have friends that grow synthetics that don't grow natural, just to see if is my cultivar going to be able to support eating a synthetic nitrogen as opposed to eating amino acids like it has been in my garden. You know what I mean? That's also questions that I ask myself. So yeah, definitely testing it out and getting it to as many people as possible, so that they can give you results, and also taking notes of your own is very important also.
Yeah, notes. I imagine getting into breeding and trying to make the most amazing strain that you possibly can requires lots of dedication to tracking and taking those notes and creating those different environments and tracking those environments and tracking results and outcomes. And, we strongly encourage on the Homegrown Helpers and Growcast that growers, keep a journal. And we even, made a journal for our members in GrowPass. And if you want to check out the veg portion of that, you can go to Linktree. It's linktr.ee/Growcast. And download that and check out what we think you should check out and keep track of in your grow journal on a daily basis. But, breeding, I can only imagine the things that you want to keep track of and make sure this plant was not only the cross, but also the conditions that it's grown in and susceptible to. So,
Right.
Joaquin, you you said you had a really strong background in natural farming practices, and I wanted to give you an opportunity to share some of the tips that I know this is how you guys connected over Instagram, which I think is really awesome. The grow community on Instagram is very strong, and that's evidenced by how you guys connected. And it was over natural farming practices. So why don't you talk to us a little bit about those natural farming tips that you gave Mr. Macblunts there that got him, so jazzed up to kind of change his grow style?
Right on. Yeah, definitely. So natural farming was a huge discovery for me, especially having done synthetics and organics. Just not in terms of like huge yields. Obviously, my first couple runs, you doing it, but in terms of plant health, terpene profile, resistance to mold, bugs, and stuff like that. I mean, I had run the same gear for a couple of times, and when I switched from organic to KNF, I seriously noticed a difference in the reduction of aphids and scale bugs and a bunch of other different pests that were giving me a hard time. So the first tip I could give you for KNF is read the books and get started. It's one of the things I tell Mr. Macblunts all the time. He'll call me and ask me questions, and I tell him, "Bro, just read the book." But yeah, definitely get your handbook, the Dom handbook, and start reading them, and get your hands into it, and start watching some of the videos. There's a lot of great people in the community. One being Chris Trump. He has a lot of great videos on YouTube. You can search him and pull up a lot of his great stuff.
Yeah, and Chris did a podcast episode with Jordan, and Hoda Herb has really dove headfirst into this KNF movement, and he's done quite a few episodes for us over on Growcast, and so there's lots of information out there. But Mr. Macblunts, what was the biggest change that you saw? I think you mentioned it earlier as the terpenes, but talk to us a little bit about your transition from synthetics into the natural farming, and what kind of keeps you in that spot.
Yeah, no doubt, no doubt. So one thing I hated about synthetics was the mixing process, the part A, the part B, or the once you get your water pH, then you add your nutrients to it, you got to pH it again. It just became redundant and annoying. So I reached out to Pura, and I haven't looked back since. I found it easier. I found it the plethora of information on the World Wide Web, and YouTube was abundant, and I just ran from there. Like I said, my plants have never prayed so much. Just the robust coloring, I love it. I absolutely love it.
Right on, right on. All right, all you home growers out there, we're going to take a quick break and thank Trimbag, trimbag.com. Use code GROWCAST to save $30 off and free shipping, while our members get a $50 off plus free shipping code from Trimbag. Trimbag.com. Check out the videos. If you've been hesitant, if you've been reluctant, if you're one of those people that will only ever put a pair of scissors to their buds, you really need to just give this a chance and check it out. Go to your local grow store. They're doing demos of these products all over the place because people don't believe how well it actually works. And I've seen it in action. I've seen it at trade shows. A friend of mine has one. And if you're doing any sort of weight and are tired of trimming, Trimbag really is a time saver and doesn't destroy your buds as some might think. So check out some of the videos, toss a couple pounds in a bag, shake it up for 5 minutes, and you're done. You're 90% done anyways. So trimbag.com, use code GROWCAST, save yourself $30 plus get free shipping by using that code, or get a code for $50 off after you become a member. Thanks so much to Trimbag and all of our other great MyGrowPass.com partners. Now back to the episode with Mr. Macblunts and Joaquin. So, Mr. Macblunts, why don't we transition into some, practical grow advice here and give our audience a few tips that you implore to increase the yield that you can achieve off of a single plant.
So take your time. Learn your plants, listen to your plants, know your plants. Learn how to get ahead of a problem. If you see a problem starting, research it, figure out what's going on, and react. I spend about at least 45 minutes to an hour every day in my garden, looking under leaves, looking at the structure, everything, you know. Again, I have to bring it back to natural farming. I started using fermented plant juice with bananas, and I'll take the bananas, smash them up, and add it equal parts brown sugar. And to me, it worked better than the synthetic bud candy. It give me robust, hard nugs, super frosty. You know, everything's about genetics too. Don't get me wrong. Genetics play a major part in the overall outcome of your flower. But just taking care of problems before they turn into disastrous problems really helped increase my yield along with natural farming.
And how about you, Joaquin? Anything to add to advice on increasing the yield? We're all limited by the number of plants that we're allowed to grow legally anyways.
Right.
So what do you have for our audience on how to, get from, 4 to 6 ounces or 6 to 8 ounces per plant?
Yeah, definitely. One of the things, like I said, like Mr. Macblunts covered, is prevention of problems. Stressing, heat stress, humidity, bugs, stuff like that can be a big downer on your yield. So paying attention to that, but also one overlooked thing I've been noticing a lot of people, not just in the natural farming community, but in synthetic, it's also a huge focus on potassium and not so much a focus on phosphorus. I've noticed that increasing phosphorus feed for my plants before transitioning into flower and the first few weeks of flower helps me create like tons of bud sites, more than just the regular recommended dosage of phosphorus. And I just like to put that out there. I mean, I don't know if if anybody's really looking into that, but increasing the phosphorus in my feed is really really helping me out with the bud size and structure.
What have you done to increase that phosphorus in your feed? Anything specific?
In KNF, there's a couple of ways you can do it. One way is by making a FPJ or fermented plant juice out of sour fruits that aren't truly ripened yet, like green bananas, green pineapples. Also, another way is by toasting or burning bones, like cow bones or pig bones, into charcoal and then letting them sit in vinegar for a week to break down the calcium phosphate. And the calcium phosphate actually leaches into the vinegar, making it readily available for plants. So those are the two things that I've been using, and I've been having great success with that.
One question that I have for you, Joaquin, is I understand the science behind making these, fermented plant juices and such, but how do you know, and are there any testing kits out there on the market for you to test the potency and to make sure that, the vinegar worked to pull out the nutrient out of that bone, or, the potassium levels that were coming out of that banana were exactly right, and then you dilute it in water? Is it mostly trial and error with dosage, or are there testing kits to test that stuff out with?
Testing kits aren't so common right now on the market. You could possibly go to like a hydroponic store or a grow store and maybe get like a soil test kit and maybe get like a rough estimate with that. But what I've been noticing is with trial and error, really honestly, I know a lot of KNF guidelines tell you to dilute 1 to 1,000, but that's strictly for foliar. I've noticed that increasing the dosages of KNF inputs, especially depending on the size of the plant, anywhere from 1 to 500 for small plants to 1 to 250 to even 1 to 100 parts KNF fermentation to water, which some people will tell you you're crazy and it'll burn your plants. But with a 6-foot cannabis plant, or I would imagine like a 4 or 5 foot corn stalk, the dilution is not really going to affect it so much as opposed to a negative thing as people like to imagine. So I'd like to say just trial and error. I like to tell people too, you never know until you try. That's one of my main lessons I teach people. So just go ahead and try it. If it works for you, great. Try it on one plant. If that plant dies, then now you don't use that anymore.
Well, that's a great tip, but I do think that part of the job that we have here is to help people overcome those trial and errors and maybe reduce that learning curve a little bit. And I think when it comes to growing cannabis, more so than tomatoes or green peppers or whatever, and it's probably because of the potential value of that one single plant. I think people are just more afraid and timid to try new things and potentially lose a crop. Do you have anything to add to that, Mr. Macblunts?
Cannabis is a very resilient plant. It can handle a crap ton of stresses. So again, I like Joaquin said, don't be afraid to try new things, because if it didn't work, try something else, because your cannabis plant will hold up. Unless you completely burn it to the root and kill off the plant. But I have had no such happenings by using KNF. I've only seen gains. So I think the proof is in the pudding once you try it, once you try it out.
All right, cool. Thank you. That's great advice. So, Mr. Macblunts, I'd like to kick you off with, what I think is maybe the most important question that we ask on the show, and that is, talk to us about your biggest mistake, but put it in the perspective of like, this is your biggest learning experience, and talk to us about what you took away from that and how you corrected that mistake so that it's not going to be a mistake again.
I would say my biggest mistake was trying to keep mental notes and not writing things down. I have a full, 9-to-5 job, so a wife, kids. So there's so much other things going on, taking mental notes of that. When it comes to my garden, I just wasn't keeping up with everything day to day like I was supposed to until I started taking notes. And I can go back to my planner, look at my note, and be like, okay, well, this is where I made a mistake, or this is where I made gains. Here, let's try this again. Or, for instance, my roadkill pie. I noticed that I started getting purple stems. And I'll say, okay, well, that's a trait that I wanted to keep. Tag that plant, took clones from it, and replicated it. And, but that all came from taking notes and tagging and, putting that pen to work. Any beginner grower, especially starting out, taking notes will get you further along than just trying to wing it. And I think I lost a lot of time just trying to keep mental notes.
That's great. That's great advice. But did you say roadkill pie? Is that the name of a strain?
Yeah, that's the name of my strain that I created.
That's something you created. Okay. What's the terpene profile on roadkill pie?
So funny story. So the roadkill pie is a cross between my squirrel funeral and from Tino's Genetics green cherry pie, and it's like it has that widow smell because inside of the squirrel funeral there's widow, but there's a really prevalent cherry terpene profile in it, and it's amazing. I can't wait to get it out to Spain.
Right on. Cool. Joaquin, what was the biggest learning opportunity that you've had in the cannabis garden, and how did you put things in a place to ensure that mistake didn't happen again?
Definitely, just putting too much on my plate. As a young grower, I wanted to start a bunch of seeds and have a bunch of plants, and and also taking cuttings and learning all this other stuff, and I learned that after killing several crops with spider mites and insect problems that I just didn't have time to look over. Taking it a little bit slower than you want to sometimes, can pay off definitely in terms of quality and quantity. Just taking it easy and paying attention to everything, and especially when you're just starting and you want to learn everything there is to know about this plant. You want to see how it reacts to certain things. You want to see how it reacts to air and to the sun. So really just paying attention and just taking it easy the first couple of grows, and to know yourself and getting to know your grow style and getting to know cannabis definitely are important.
Yeah, I think that's a great tip, dude. I give that advice all the time. Like, don't take on more than what you can handle before you know what you can handle.
Definitely.
Those first couple of grows, don't go for those 6 plants right off the bat.
Right.
You're more than likely going to overwhelm yourself.
Right.
Start off with 2 or 3 and then work your way up to 4 or 5 and then, kill it with that 6. So that's really great to hear. Both really great tips.
Another thing too, I would say is master your growing methods first before you try to dive into breeding. Learn about the plant. Learn about how that plant grows, what it's receptive to, what it's not receptive to before you dive into breeding. I think a lot of I hate using the word pollen chucker because I think at the end of the day, everyone has to chuck pollen in order to create a seed. But before you get into breeding, know the plant, know your grow method.
Right on, right on. So, Joaquin, can you tell us what the best piece of advice that you've ever received about growing cannabis is, and then we will wrap things up as we work to get out of here.
Best piece of advice? So, yeah, definitely, I had a lot of problems with overfeeding, and somebody had given me the tip to, take it easy on the feed. And that's one of the things I can really offer people is, feed them a little bit, order of what it says on the bottle, see how they react to it, increase it little by little, just don't burn your plants. That's the easiest way to kill them, in my opinion.
And Mr. Macblunts, what's the best piece of advice you've ever received about growing cannabis?
And had so many, it's hard to kind of narrow it down to one. But again, I would say know your limits. Take your time and take your notes. Take your notes.
All right. Do you guys have any last bits of advice for our audience, since you guys have done such a great job at sharing some tips and advice with them? Any last words of wisdom? Why don't you kick us off, Mr. Macblunts?
The love you put into the plant will reciprocate back to you. If you spend time with your plants and take care of your plant's needs, they'll give back in you. They'll definitely give back in you.
And Joaquin, any last bits of advice?
Definitely just keep growing, guys. Don't stop. Don't let little mistakes discourage you. Don't let little hiccups hold you back, and just keep your head up and just put that next seed in the ground and just keep growing.
Awesome, guys. And Joaquin, where can our audience find you? Maybe on Instagram and follow along on your growing journey.
Definitely. I have a personal Instagram. It's Pura Vida Natural Veganics, and it's separated by underscores. So Pura Vida, one word, _ natural _ veganics. Also, I have a little bit of my company, Jack Green's _ Bug Be Gone, or garden products. I apologize. Jack Green's _ garden products. And that's where I have pesticide and other products for people to check out. Also gardening tips and other things to my YouTube there.
Right on. Right on. We didn't even get into that. Do you want to talk a little bit about that real quick?
Oh, sure. I make right now, the product we have online is a all natural Jadam based pesticide. It works great on aphids, spider mites, and other soft bodies. Right now, we're working on putting our FPJs and our nutrient line on the website. So, yeah, I'm really excited about that.
Cool. And what's the website, not just the Instagram?
JackGreensGardenProducts.com.
Cool. Awesome. Awesome. And Mr. Macblunts, where can people connect with you and follow along on your cannabis journey?
Right on. So you can find me on Instagram at Mr.Macblunts on Instagram. Or if you want to pick up some of my gear, you can find me on craftseedguild.com. That's CraftSeedGuild.com. And you can find my grape stench line, or find me on Instagram and shoot me a DM about the other seed lines that I have coming. Well, they're already released.
Right on. Well, awesome, guys. Thanks so much for your time. Thanks so much for making this happen on opposite sides of the world. And thank you, audience, for listening, and happy growing to you all. We'll catch you next time.
All righty. Thank you so much for the invite.
Awesome. Thank you. Thank you for having us.
Awesome. And audience, if you get a chance, make sure you give us a rating and review. We love seeing your opinions and thoughts, especially as we transition to this new format. All right. We're out.